Good evening. It is December 22nd, and we're taking a look at the Federal Register website, federalregister.gov, and we're looking specifically at the comment window for the pistol brace comment period. And scrolling down, I have the link in the description of this video. I'm not going to try to read the link. I'll just post the link here in the text chat. If you scroll about a couple of bit down here, we see on the right, read the public comments, and the numbers up to 48,354. For reference, yesterday evening it was at 22,000. Yesterday earlier in the day for us it was at 5,000. Saw some reports of it being at 13,000. So if you hover over the little I there, it'll say the count refers to the total comments and submissions received on this document as reported by regulations.gov. Agencies review all submissions and may choose to redact or withhold certain submissions or portions thereof. Submitted comments may not be available to read until the agency has approved them. So I suspect what that means is this count refers to the total, and then we'll see some portion of that total when we click on it. And I'll just close this again and we'll click on it. And tell them we're going to leave it, the website, to a beta website. Where they're moving everything over, I guess, to regulations.gov. So there's approximately 5,400 something comments according to the tab here on the page. So I'm going to let's see if there's certain ways. Oh, I see. I can sort it by today, last 3 days, last 7 days, and so forth. So it looks like there is a total of 5,449 that are accumulated in the last 7 days. The last 3 days is 4,875, and today 2,663 have been added. And that's just a little chart over on the left that tells me that. So I'm going to scroll down the main page here just to get the lay of the land, and it looks like there are the 5,000 results just listed here. I can't change the number of items that show up on the page. I can sort by best match. I posted newer or older, so I can ascend the list or descend the list. So if I put it this way, I guess I'm seeing comments that are coming in as of the 21st. So these would be the most recent ones, I suspect. And then if I flip it over this way, we'll see the ones that are the first comments that came in. So I think what I'll do is we've already played with this a little bit, trying to check it out. And if you click on one of them, I'll show you. It'll open up the window and you can read the comment. However, there's really nothing here to let you go to the next comment that we've discovered. So instead, I'm going to just go back and right click and just start opening these things in a new window. So I'm going to skip that first one just because it doesn't reference the document. And then the first one says it's withdrawn. The second one doesn't reference the document. So I started with the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'm just going to kind of randomly sample them this way, I think, just because I don't know any other way to randomly sample it. I'm going to go to the third page now. And a lot of these don't reference the doc number. I wonder what that's all about. So I guess I might as well not use that. It is just discriminating factor. So I'll just start grabbing some more. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm just randomly picking them. I'm only trying to not pick the same one twice. That's all. So now I'm going to go to the 5th page, and I see a lot more with the document number again, so I'll just take a bunch, open a new tab. So that's what I've been doing, is I've been right clicking on each of these and opening them in a new tab. And I think you can see up at the top there, my tabs are just growing up there. So I'll just randomly take a bunch from the sample. Oh, I didn't want to do that. I didn't do it. I'll now scroll down and try to hit the next page before it goes to that actual comment. Good. I think I accidentally clicked on a comment. I didn't want to do that. So I'm going to right click and grab some more randomly here. And I don't really have a set. I just kind of did this because it was a project I've been wanting to do, and I had a little time here to do it. So I don't know how many of these I'll do necessarily, but I can still see the tabs up there. So I'll use that as an indication that I can do more. So then we'll just keep going. I'm on the 7th page. I'll jump to the, or I was on the 6th page. I'll jump to the 8th page and grab some more randomly here. And it looks like we're still on the 17th. So this is probably not the way to do it. I'm going to scroll down and let's see, how do we do this? We're going to go down to page, right now it says number 8 in the URL. And I'm going to go down here and hit page 10. And it sure enough says page 10 here. So we know that there's going to be at least 20 pages or so. So let's go ahead and change that to, instead of 10, let's just change it to 17 and hit enter. And that's faster than thumbing through these pages randomly or with their little indexing stuff. So now we're going to go open up some more in a new tab. We're still on December 17th though. So I think what I'll do now is I'll just assume there's a lot more than 20 pages and I'll put in page 170 and see what happens. And they don't have that many pages yet. So we'll go down to page 70, see if that brings up anything. And we don't have that many pages. So page 30, hopefully we won't get in trouble for trying to hack the ATF here. And now I'll go back to page 20 because maybe they do only have 20 pages. Yes, they only have 20 pages. Now that works, so I'll just keep opening up some ones here. This isn't an instruction manual on how to do this part of it. I'm just doing it. So we can get some random ones basically. All right, so I imagine that's probably enough. And now I'll just, I open this up. I don't think it bothers you all. And then I'll just start clicking on some of these tabs. So I'm not going to identify them at all, except for this was from, it doesn't even matter what date they went in, right? So the first one, after years of repeated, changes in, I should ask, is the audio okay? I do have the text chat up over here. After years of repeated changes in the rulings on pistol braces, yet another change in ruling is ridiculous. How is it that an executive branch of the federal government, whose responsibility is enforcement of laws, is able to repeatedly interpret and reinterpret federal firearms laws? After allowing legal firearms owners to purchase pistol braces and firearms equipped with pistol braces for several years, it's unfair to expect millions of owners to comply over ever-changing rulings by the ATF. With the count of pistol braces in the public totaling 4 million, I believe pistol braces fall well into the category of regular use by the public and should be exempt from the NFA rules and regulations. Expecting the general public to constantly keep up with constantly changing rules is unfair. I also believe requiring pistol brace owners to register them with the ATF under NFA will only burden the ATF with even more applications that the ATF is clearly already struggling to keep up with. Delays that will inevitably happen with the inclusion of up to 4 million Form 1 applications will only lead to further frustration on the public and ATF. Long delays in processing of ATF forms, I believe, are also an infringement on Second Amendment rights. I said I wouldn't comment. Sorry. All right, the next one is, I would like to point out that citizens, I got to take a moment. I got clamped, is that the right word? I would like to point out that citizens of California and other restrictive states do not have the option of filling out a Form 1 in order to turn our pistols into an SBR. That being the case, these pistols are much more dangerous to fire as there is no longer as many points of contact to stabilize them. My suggestion is that the ATF sue several states which would allow for assault weapons bans so that the people of these states are able to comply with any laws which are applicable. Thank you. Wow. I said I wouldn't comment. This is a solution looking for a problem. More deaths and violence can be prevented from focusing enforcement efforts on people proven to be threats to society who attempt or have acquired firearms while being prohibited. Instead of raiding manufacturers that provide materials for people to legally manufacture their own firearms per their 2A rights, maybe seek solutions to help those companies use their discretion to not sell to prohibited persons. I'm going to try to increase the font size. Hopefully that doesn't bother anybody. The ATF would have millions of partners protecting 2A rights against abuse by those who prove themselves unworthy. Instead, they make enemies out of people who just want to be free. Take the politics out of it and start by rejecting these changes and refocusing to where some real good can actually be done. AR-15 and similar pistols are rarely used for crime, probably even more rare where being a pistol or shouldering a brace even matters. But this smacks of an effort to start registration and confiscation of firearms owned with zero ill intent. The NFA is outdated anyway. This is hard to read. The NFA is outdated anyways. We don't have Al Capone-style gangsters walking around hiding sawed-off shotguns and trench coats. How about we actually put some felons committing more felonies with firearms they're not supposed to have in prisons rather than back on the streets, and leave good citizens alone? And I can't help it. I'm going to comment. If you want to make a great YouTube channel, just read these. This is amazing. Make a book out of this. I got to take a sec. I really didn't expect this. I urge everyone at the ATF to contemplate the consequences of your decision. Legal battles aside, please consider the spirit of the Second Amendment, how making felons out of millions of hardworking Americans would look upon your department. The NFA in and itself serves no purpose. The mere fact that there is no... need somebody's better at reading this stuff. The mere fact that there is so much confusion of what is legal and what is illegal to the common American should be enough to render the entire act moot. Yeah, I can't read this. Should I need a robot to read it? The proposed rule, this is another one. The proposed rule is yet another attempt at a backdoor gun registration and unconstitutional gun regulation. Nowhere in the Second Amendment does it say a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed, except that if the firearm may possibly be considered a pistol or a short barrel rifle or short barrel shotgun or some random designation given to the firearm at some later date. The BATF is yet again going outside their boundaries and attempting to make millions of people either surrender their legally purchased and possessed firearms or to pay exorbitant fees to maintain ownership of their legal property. I picked the wrong year to quit smoking. I'm proud of these people. Yeah, I'm having difficulty. I thought it was going to be a bunch shall not be infringed. This is amazing. And I picked these randomly. You've seen me pick them, right? This is a clear infringement on our constitutional rights that's based in lies and fear-mongering over facts. The rules herein are arbitrary and made to be nearly impossible to follow, leading to a fear of breaking a poorly worded and formed process, so people would rather not do anything. This is also a clear attack on the poor and disabled, those who will suffer the most from this arbitrary nonsense, and this who group the government should be doing the most to protect. I read that wrong. Those who will suffer the most from this arbitrary nonsense, and this group who the government should be doing the most to protect and enable to him to feel as protect and enable to feel as normal as anyone else. Instead, the government targets them directly with onerous regulation. Again, amazing, but man, if I got tongue-tied on that, then you got to do that one. I mean, that one's awesome. I hope this is helping people. Government control of lawful ownership of firearms of any kind is against the Constitution and should be disbanded. Please leave law-abiding citizens alone. Braces are a waste of money for you to chase. They don't make a firearm more dangerous. Absolute waste of time and money. I said I would quit. The BATFE. is overstepping its authority and attempting to create a scenario where gun owners are left not knowing if the firearms that were purchased legally are now illegal. Pistol braces are approved by the ATF. There have been hundreds of clarification letters provided by the ATF showing that pistol braces were legal to own without prior approval. The constant attack on legal gun ownership is wrong and will not be tolerated by the citizens. This process this agency has taken is offensive and needs to stop. We will not stand for firearms registration. We will not comply. This is disgusting and inexcusable. Take a second. There's no way. You saw that I just randomly grabbed these, right? Like, I didn't set this up. There's been like kind of one that said, holy crap, this one's long. There's only been like one that even kind of said, shall not be infringed, right? Like, this is amazing. We need some kind of robot or somebody who's good at just saying stuff who doesn't have any emotion to read this. I am writing to express my sincere concern with the objective factors in the document published. Criteria are partially provided but are not explicitly stated. For example, a large caliber firearm that is impractical to fire with one hand because of recoil or other factors, even with an arm brace, is ambiguous. For a small statured person, even the 5.56 round may be impractical for them, despite the entire reasoning stabilizing braces wherever approved was for such use with a 5.56 AR-15 pistol. Additionally, rifle caliber handguns are nothing new. They have been in the hunting world for years. Suddenly, the caliber is a consideration because of the arm brace? That does not seem correct. I am also highly concerned with the phrasing, no single factor or combination of factors is necessarily dispositive, and FATD examines each weapon holistically on a case-by-case basis. What this document is telling me is that a pistol with a stabilizing brace is legal up until the moment FATD decides a specific one is not, at which point the individual in possession of the firearm is criminally charged with no ability to resolve the issue. I gotta quit doing that. A citizen has no way of knowing whether their personal property meets your criteria or not when objectively shared. This document says that there is no way for the citizen to know what the criteria are and thus cannot know if they are lawfully complying with FATD's determination or not. Legal ambiguity, whatever, you know what that word is the work of tyrannical governments, not duly elected representative republics like the United States of America. I recognize that FATD is trying to define something that is hard to quantify, in large part because it depends upon the intention of the end user more than any technical requirement. That said, you need to do better and actually lock down these criteria to something more specific. There has to be a litmus test an average citizen can compare against, just as they can compare to the NFA to determine if a planned rifle construction would be legal or not. This document suggests that citizens cannot actually build. Oh my God, holy crap, hold on a second. I didn't think they were gonna be like this. This document suggests that citizens cannot actually build or design a handgun with stabilizing brace without risking criminal prosecution without regard for their intent because they cannot actually accurately determine what the criteria even are. I believe that if you are to extend good faith to the owners of these stabilizing braces, you can only do one of two things. One, list very specific construction requirements such that a citizen would be able to easily determine if their plan design is within the regulations you are providing, or recall the document. Holy crap. I didn't even handpick these. Holy crap. I wholeheartedly disagree with the ATF's position regarding ATF pistols being arbitrarily reclassified as an SBR simply because an attachment like an angled foregrip, forearm index tab, or sighting device with an arbitrary eye relief. The way someone holds a firearm doesn't change its classification from day to day. This is absurd. This is a witch hunt. Do not reclassify firearms based on how they're held. Is that the best example of a long one that was amazing and a short one that was equally as amazing? Holy crap. Many people who own these braces may live in a state where NFA items are banned and they will not be able to register their firearms. Leave braces alone. Another one, here's a longer one. As someone who is to enforce law, I believe the ATF is setting a precedent that will affect other agencies than themselves. A reversal in opinion or ruling confuses the law-abiding public, and in this matter shall a reversal in opinion or further a reversal in opinion or ruling further confuses the law-abiding public, and in this matter show contempt towards law-abiding gun owners for following rules. I, being an agent of the government, may be viewed as enforcing unconstitutional laws because people bought these braces in good faith, believing what the ATF said a few years ago. This could further put law enforcement in danger from members of the public that think that being on a gun registry is a form of control, sedation from a tyrannical government. I would like to remind the ATF that their actions have consequences for law enforcement officers that are not a part of their agency. A notable example would be the accusation of a gun walking sting in Arizona that let sorry about that. Somebody else will do this and they'll do it better. A notable example would be the accusation of a gun walking sting in Arizona. I can't do it. Hold. It's too close to the anniversary. I'm not going to get into it. All right. Let's see. This is an objective statement to the classifying of stabilizer braces as NFA items. There are a number of issues which I take with this proposal, as well as the criteria used to classify a firearm in general. There are a number of issues I take with this proposal, as well as the criteria used to classify a firearm in general. The whole being able to shoot with one hand criteria is completely ridiculous. For the safety of the user and the safety of their surroundings, a multi-point of contact approach is superior. Specifically, a stabilizer brace assists with this multi-point of contact. No firearm should really be fired with one hand unless you cannot safely place another hand on it. Here's something I got to comment. Like, some of these people are using spaces. So if you're putting a thing together with a run-on sentence this big, I'm putting it big and I'm still having trouble. So use spaces, and you can hit carriage return once in a while. For the sake, where was I at? No firearm should really be fired with one hand unless you cannot safely place another hand on it. Pistols can be fired with one hand, but it's safer to use one hand for operation and the other as a supporting grip contact. You can drive a car with one hand on the steering wheel, but two hands on the steering wheel is safer. Like any tool, which a firearm truly is, multiple points of contact, two hands, ability to utilize multiple counts of a body contact to control, is usually always safer and more advantageous. You can operate a chainsaw with one hand, but two hands are safer. The few criteria, lack of specifics, categories are also objectionable. Now I'm burping, sorry. Yeah, get a robot or somebody who's like used to reading the weather to do this. This is the rough, shitty version, right? Sorry. You can operate a chainsaw. All right. Example of the large caliber statement is questionable, as many pistol calibers alone are difficult to manage without multiple points of contact. Maybe two hands sling for stabilizing. An example would be on hunting revolvers that may be close to 12 inches in barrel length and are chambered in .44 Magnum, .454 Casull, or even .500. Smith & Wesson. These are larger calibers that require a little more points of contact. In looking at higher velocity calibers, the same holds true. Example, 223 Remington and 308. Both can be fired with one hand in a pistol, but for any degree of safety and practicality, they are better shot both out of a pistol and rifle with two hands, and additional points of contact for even more control. I think he means if I. The main objection all centers around the use of one-hand misnomer. Sure, it is possible to operate tools with one hand, but again, it is safer to utilize multiple points of contact. The statement that the ATF, NFA, GCA all center around regulations based upon weapons, tools, that are likely used for criminal purpose is completely misguided. One can use a car to criminally, but we don't regulate driving a car. One can criminally use a fork to cause bodily injury or break into a lock, but forks are not regulated. Many of the categories mentioned in this specific notice have alternative solutions that can be used to circumvent them. So this idea to regulate use of stabilizing braces is completely objectionable in my opinion. The bottom line is the ATF is trying to regulate advances in technology that truly makes our lives much easier. These regulations don't make us safer, but rather deter from our everyday freedoms. At this point, I do not have a lot of confidence in what the ATF or our current political state has in mind to regulate, but rather a fear this will continue to erode freedoms. Thank you for your attention. Wow, that was, I think there's a lot. I'm gonna go ahead and comment. Break it up and make that into multiple comments. I mean, this is amazing stuff, but that was difficult to read. I didn't pick these either. Like I seriously just did these randomly. This very process violates federal standards, and this rule counters what you've been telling the industry for years. Jobs will be lost with no evidence of gain and safety. It seems like your organization is going to great lengths to make criminals out of law-abiding citizens. I mean, none of these are worse or better than the other. They're just giving me more faith than I've ever had in us, right? The ATF has a long history of providing inconsistent guidance when it comes to the use and application of stabilizing braces. Witness the multiple vacillations from various ATF representatives concerning whether or not shouldering a weapon with a brace changes its classification. With this background in mind, I find the parameters loosely defined in the letter of intent to be vague and subject to interpretation, leaving every person currently in possession of a brace pistol unsure as to the legality of their weapon. The remedy provided is also wholly untenable. Either register your weapon, creating a de facto national registry, or modify it to have a barrel in excess of 16 inches, which would also negate the benefit of the brace itself via the addition of weight too far forward on the weapon to effectively balance one-handed. I call the ATF and DOJ to abandon this course of action until such a time to when clear and objective parameters can be defined and published. Without those parameters, subjects are at the mercy of government bureaucrats to make arbitrary decisions, which could result in time in federal prison. This proposal lacks the necessary clarity I believe will not hold up in a court of law. I'm not reading the comments to these comments, but I'm assuming, unless you're idiots, you're loving this. A piece of plastic is not a firearm. What shape that plastic, a piece of plastic is not a firearm. What shape that piece of plastic is does not determine any criminal use of it, at least not until you criminalize it. Then you will have to enforce it. There will be far higher deaths from your actions than any in history of stabilizing braces. You should pour your efforts into decriminalizing all the unnecessary laws that have not improved but made life worse for people, like making mufflers and items that do the same thing as a rubber band. The Constitution was written for a reason, as was the Bill of Rights. You do not get to put your opinions as rights. When you try to take away my rights, you forfeit your own, just like any other criminal. These are poignant. It's like going into a knife store. They're all knives, so they're all good. It's just they just have different shaped blades. Hello, as a citizen of the United States of America, individuals are granted inalienable rights given by God or nature, and this is recognized through a document called the Constitution. As you may know, the Second Amendment has the text "shall not be infringed" when pertaining to an individual's rights to bear weapons. Being that there are millions of these braces in law-abiding citizens' hands, it is common use for militia applications. Infringing in any way, including putting these braces under NFA, will restrict future possession of these common use braces. Future tax, paperwork causing months, if not years, to process, as well as having a registry of these items, are infringements upon the Constitution. If you proceed to classify these stabilizing braces as NFA items, it will be overturned in court, resulting in greater public distrust of your organization. You swore an oath to the Constitution, and I urge you to consider my words, as well as look at the millions of Americans who own these devices. Thank you for your time, and the guy signed it. Pretty awesome. Good day. The ATF should not change brace regulations to make them fall under the NFA. That's like a refreshing piece of melon while you're having a buffet, right? Thank you. It tasted good, and it was just hit the spot. These regulations are impractical and unreasonable. It will turn millions of law-abiding citizens into felons without them even committing a crime. Braces are not used by criminals. This needs to be dropped immediately. So for all the people that don't like melon, you just got some grapes or something that you do like right there. Another little one. This is the fourth reversal of opinion by the ATF on this issue. Either the ATF is a clown show run by incompetence or has become too politicized to be entrusted with interpreting and enforcing law. Holy crap. I didn't even pick these. Holy crap, this is just random. This is our country. This is us. This is gun owners. This is people that give a shit. Holy crap, this is all the people, you know who this is? This is all the people that ain't sitting down watching these people. And all those people that are sitting down watching don't even know. You are a government agency. You don't work on holidays nor weekend. In your 14 days, you have 2 major holidays and a 3-day weekend. You might as well wait till after the lawsuits are done before trying to enforce. See, the kids, these aren't old people writing these. These are kids doing this. You know these are kids writing these amazing, amazing letters. Don't listen to the media. The kids are going to save us all. And the women, the DC project. Wait till they kick in on this. I can't see, I'm being sexist, but I don't see any sex in these. And I haven't seen anything from like an object, like anything except for that law enforcement guy. Nobody's really said anything about like their who they are, like identified themselves or anything about like how it would affect them. Anyway, I wish that to state my objection against regulating stabilizing braces as NFA items. I have read your proposal and do not see any advantage by it other than perhaps increasing tax revenue. It appears to be nothing more than an increased regulatory burden with no benefit to public safety. Also of note, are you sure the comment period of 14 days is legal? I thought the Gun Control Act called for 90 days of comment. If so, does this create an appearance of impropriety by the Bureau? Nice. Actually, if you want to answer to that, it's because they don't consider this of import. So if you read the Gun Control Act, it says they have to have either a 30, 60, or 90-day window for changes to the thing, unless there's a bunch of clarifications, like a bunch of caveats to that. And one of them is if it's not a big deal. So they consider this to be not a big deal. Not a major change, I think is the way it's described. But you definitely make a video about that. You know, leave a comment about how you don't believe this is not a big deal and this was not enough time to talk about it, because you're only going to get a couple of 5 million, right, of these comments. Holy crap! And I didn't even handpick these things. I mean, I wouldn't know how to handpick them. I would have had to read a whole bunch to handpick these, unless this is just true. I mean, this is a true sample. Holy crap! I can't even imagine that. Somebody gets to read this. Can you imagine some jerks getting paid by the ATF to read stuff like this? I got to read it for nothing. The reversal on the opinion of the classification of stabilizing braces is abuse of power. Millions of these were bought and sold by legal law-abiding citizens with the approval of the ATF, and now are being considered felons unless they comply with registration or forfeiture. Your position and duty is to protect the U.S. citizens, not to bypass our form of government acting as the executive and judicial branch by force. We are a nation of laws and elected representatives, and the ATF is assuming the role of supreme ruler and ignoring our Constitution. The braces being used are a big help in controlling a pistol and increases the safety of the weapon while being used. There has been no purpose to this reversal. and is perceived as an attack on the American people and a violation of law and the Constitution. You must cease this opinion change that is occurring without any change in the writing of law. The American people will fight this by every legal means available as it is a violation of our rights, common decency, and the respect of the American people. Thanks for your time. Wow. It's amazing. I know, I listen to people tell me all they did is type in shall not be infringed. Man, but these people didn't. The ATF has long overstepped their boundaries, and this is yet another example of their incompetence. This is a clear case of them going back to their previous rulings. Nowhere in any other part of our justice system is it allowed to backpedal on their rulings. Ex post facto and double jeopardy laws are in place so that the citizens aren't unjustly charged. This is beyond infringement. This is unconstitutional. A law enforcement agency shouldn't have legislative powers, and this is a prime example. This is a prime example why. We have checks and balances for a reason, and the ATF needs to be put in check. I'd like to give credit to all these people. These are people, regular people out there. Sirs, I fail to understand why this issue must be constantly revisited. If your initial rulings resulted in citizens purchasing equipment, which must later be surrendered, I urge more careful and diligent initial review, not continual reclassification. Making law-abiding citizens criminals through regulation is a ridiculous way of running an agency or our federal government. Stop doing this. Thank you. That's the good said. He said, thanks much. All right, the next one. These are a lot of medium-sized ones here. The BATFE proposed rule regarding stabilizing braces is flawed in 3 respects. First, it does not account for those individuals who wish to use a rifle that are one-armed and deserve a way to effectively aim a rifle caliber firearm. Second, the rule itself is cumbersome and would lead to erratic enforcement. Finally, there has been absolutely no rise in crime related activity requiring a change in current rules. This is what it would have been like if you were sports and watching Michael Jordan or something, right? Like this is what people like watching Miklik. This is what it's like being in the audience watching Miklik if you're like revolvers, right? Objective is an adjective, means clear and measurable. This notice is neither. If the objective is to turn law-abiding citizens into criminals, it will work. There is no way to know what measures will be made and no mention of the high or low specifications that I don't know what that word is, legal versus, that demarcate legal versus illegal. Holy crap. A reminder, there's no way to rule innocent men. The only power any government has is the power to crack down on criminals. Well, when there aren't enough criminals, one makes them. One declares so many things to be a crime that it becomes impossible for all men to live without breaking laws. That's Ayn Rand, and it's quoted. Is that whole thing from Ayn Rand? No, I think just that last part was from Ayn Rand. I wonder if you're allowed to do that. He did. I say put art in here. That's what art's for. It gets things across in an excellent way, right? All right, this is another illegal restriction attempt on the Second Amendment and the U.S. Constitution. Not only should these braces not be restricted, neither should SBR, SBS, which is short barrel rifle and short barrel shotguns. As an American, I deserve to defend myself and my loved ones with anything I deem the best option. Criminals do not and will not obey law or restriction. I need to take a drink of something. Holy crap, this is amazing. I'm just drinking coffee. It's not like I'm drinking. This ruling wouldn't contradict years and years of past precedent set up by your agency, will offer no benefit to public safety, and will cost an untold amount of U.S. manufacturing jobs during what has been the hardest job economy of my lifetime. Also, asking already overtaxed citizens to pay an additional $200 on top of all the other taxes we already pay is outlandish for a weapon system that was legally purchased and deployed for many, many years. The wait times for a stamp are ridiculous. I don't know who's actually looking at this, but I'm wondering if these are typos because they're like me and can't talk good, or they're talking to their robots and the robots are bad, or they're not proofreading, obviously. But But here's the thing, they're in the record. So obviously if I could mumble through some of these, then the ATF agent, whoever did this, mumbled through them because they wouldn't show up here if they weren't already approved. These are approved messages, I believe. I know they are. Let's see, at least according to the thing. Another medium one. Look at the countries without these restrictions, but with much harsher general gun restrictions. South Africa and Canada, notably. Nobody cares about Canada. Oh, no, sorry. Nobody cares about short right barrels, and hardly anyone requires such strict regulation of suppressors. This was moot to begin with from a crime prevention mitigation standpoint. Just focus on preventing guns from falling into felons' hands. Ugh. I mean, I was kind of kidding there. I shouldn't have done that, but I don't know. I'm going to read that one again because I don't really like this one. Look at the countries without these restrictions, but with much harsher general gun restrictions. South Africa and Canada, notably. Nobody cares about short barrels, and hardly anyone requires such strict regulation of suppressors. This was moot to begin with from a crime prevention mitigation standpoint. Just prevent guns from falling into felons' hands. All right, if he would have removed the felons' hands part, I'd have been down. Now I get it. He's saying, look at South Africa and look at Canada. Like, they're both horrible, like, fascist, basically fascist countries ruled by England, I think. I don't really understand all that. But both of them don't care at all about short barrels. And in South Africa, you can get Glock suppressors. They're plastic disposable suppressors, for crying out loud. So, from what I understand from the internet. But they're saying that they don't even care and they restrict everything. So it's like, it's kind of interesting. I think it's a little weird. Say that one out better and do it. You know, the second one with that whole felons thing, leave that out. But that's your deal, I guess. Not commenting. Sorry, you didn't hear any of that part. The proposed rules outlined under this letter are deliberately vague in an effort to allow ATF to arbitrarily determine firearms are classified as NFA items as their whims dictate. This is a gross overreach by a rogue agency and an attempt to curry favor with the incoming administration. I guess you can hold a mirror up to them. You're allowed to do that. I believe what the BATF is trying to do with pistol braces and polymer 80 is wrong. You guys are going to turn honest, hardworking people into felons overnight. And for what? A short barrel makes no sense. Stop trying to dictate what people can and can't protect themselves with. And remember, this is America, land of the free. You are making things way harder than they need to be. In closing, what you're doing is wrong and people will not stand for it. I don't think there's been a bad one yet. Is that possible? I don't think there's been a bad one. I mean, like, some of them are hard to read. Oh, look at this one, docket number and all that. I don't think you need to put it in here, as long as you put it in the top, I suspect. Because, yeah, all these other ones didn't. No, crap. I don't mean to put somebody's name here. You don't have to put all this in here, FYI. I believe ATF is not making law I believe ATF is not a law-making entity, but a law enforcement group. Making decisions on pistol braces for firearms is not in your purview. Allow states to make their own laws through legislation. Another short one. I am against the outlawing on pistol braces on AR-type pistols. Your bureau approved these braces, and now you want to change the rules. I mean, these little ones are just as deadly. They're like darts. This serves no purpose other than to further confuse law-abiding pistol owners. AR pistols are rarely used in crime due to their unwieldy size. Additionally, the ATF has failed to offer clarification and is only recently deciding to restrict access on pistols. The constant approval followed by backpedaling is not helping to reduce gun crime and only makes law-abiding citizens into criminals with an opinion. I strongly oppose this list of objective factors. I'm speechless, except for I don't have to be speechless because gun owners are amazing. What is it that you have the authority? Why is it that you have authority to make changes as you please? What is the process that you must follow and that is put in place to avoid bias or personal beliefs to impact the outcome of what is legal and not? This is a ruling of what people want or an idea of a person who leads it. Is this a ruling of what people want or an idea of a person who leads, of the person who leads it? Probably. Why are millions of Americans not consulted prior to making change? The will of the people is crucial for a free country and government aid. Why is this all in English? This guy is translating? Like, how come this is this? What's the deal with that? Is this, can you do this in Spanish? Is that a thing? Like, how come no in Espanol? I'm a motherfuckers. Am I allowed to say that? Like, how come, is that a thing? Are we allowed to complain? And can you put this thing? Come on, get out of here. How do I tell this thing to shut up? There. Can you flip this thing over to Spanish? Isn't that a law? Don't they have to do everything in Spanish? And then what else? What other languages are they leaving out? Yeah, I think it's messed up. So why do people have to translate into English to be free? There's no law that says, I mean, I don't think there's a law that says you have to speak English in this country. So right on. For whoever the hell wrote this, thank you. Pistol braces are not stocks, just like bump stocks aren't machine guns. Leave these pieces of plastic alone. The ATF is not a fourth branch of government and should not be creating law affects everyday Americans. You know, some of these are like taking it and jabbing it in there and twisting it around and jabbing it around a little bit more and then cutting and then jabbing it around a little bit more. And then others are just like a dagger plunge, right? And then some of them are like a spear that just pins them to the freaking wall as it pushes into them, right? And then other ones are like a surgeon that just goes in there and takes out the necessary parts and leaves them to bleed out. I don't think there's been a bad one yet. Changing standards after a product has been legitimately on the market and accepted for a long period of time is unconscionable. These changes would force good, innocent gun owners to make a decision to either become a felon overnight by taking no action or pay an exorbitant fee in an attempt to follow the law. In either case, it creates undue hardships on the citizens. The tax stamp that would be required in order to avoid a felony charge then becomes a violation of the Eighth Amendment as an excessive fine at best or a criminal extortion at worst. No further limitations on innocent civilians. Stop this now. Holy crap. I'm speechless. I'm freaking speechless. The ATF once again is attempting an unconstitutional attempt at gun control and regulatory overreach. Any proposed law must be brought before the Congress with legitimate reasoning and time for review. As Americans and proud of this great republic, we call on you to fulfill your oaths as federal agents. Interesting. I like that. Is that an appeal to the agents to step up to their unappointed, or their only appointed they're non-appointed. Yeah, they're acting heads, I guess, whatever they're called. The fact that the ATF refuses to clearly define their terms and expects us to accept the law that has no set boundaries is ridiculous. The ATF has zero ability to pass legislation, and I ask you to force them to follow the appropriate measures. The Second Amendment wasn't written to ensure that we could hunt or for self-protection. It was written to ensure the government couldn't abuse its citizens. I ask one question: why is it so important to the government to regulate and monitor firearms when there are zero studies that show gun control works? Why, in fact, the areas with strictest gun control, why, in fact, the areas with strictest gun control have the most crime? Where does the Constitution give the government the right to charge me a fee for something that is protected under our Constitution? In fact, the very existence of the ATF is a violation of the Second Amendment. I ask that the ATF be abolished and the states follow the example already set by some states and refuse to recognize unconstitutional federal gun laws. I only laugh because it was good, and then you put that part in there. I'd split that into two. I mean, they're both valid points, but they're probably going to do the same thing. We'll kind of laugh right in the middle where you switch angles right in the middle and call them a bunch of jerks. So call them a bunch of jerks, just doing a different letter so they can't disregard this other part of it, which is really good. Any gun control measure should be treated with the highest scrutiny. All gun laws are infringements on a constitutional right, and therefore it's a constitutionally protected right, but I'm not supposed to comment. Constitutional right, and there have been more and more legislated into law as the days go on. Instead of adding to the NFA, instead of adding to the NFA, instead our government has a responsibility to actually strongly consider and repeal that same act. Oh, okay, I like that. Instead of adding to the NFA, our government has a responsibility to act strongly, consider and repeal the same act that has done nothing to promote gun safety on this nation. All it has done has arbitrarily banned weapons of self-defense without concern for qualification or need in today's society. In fact, it has only added another tax to a long list of taxes Americans may have. The ATF can't even find good argument over why braces need to be registered over stocks. A weapon with a stock is the same thing as a brace, just a different design. Trying to say that it isn't is quite absurd and confusing, as overall straight up disrespectful to the American people. All right. Only thing there is maybe chop it into two, right? That's kind of two topics. Let's see. As a law-abiding citizen of the United States, I find it unacceptable that you would try to trick Americans into additional payment taxes. You approved braces years ago, misleading the American public, and you are now pulling a 180 and forcing millions of law-abiding Americans to comply or forfeit their ability to protect themselves and their loved ones. If you want to make a difference, work on going after criminals. Find good solutions to problems that will actually help more people than it hurts. Find solutions that will actually solve the problem you're trying to solve. Don't go for BS solutions that will have zero impact on the problem you're trying to solve. Thank you for your time, and please do what is right for the American people. These are all like about a paragraph, although it seems like a bunch of these have had more than one topic in them. Stabilizing, I don't think it's bad. I don't think they have to have just one. I just think put them in different paragraphs if they're going to have more than one so that it's not a giant sentence. Stabilizing braces have been in legal and common use for the better part of 10 years. They have not posted a threat to public safety whatsoever in the same time frame. There is no legitimate reason for the government to classify brace pistols into SPRs other than to create a registry of law-abiding citizens legally and privately owned items. What part of shall not be infringed is so hard to understand. You have taken an oath to uphold the Constitution, and you need to uphold your oath, not sully it. ATF, please. ATF. Sorry, I added that. ATF, please cease and desist with the constant infringements on law-abiding citizens' rights. But I think ATF, please, should be a thing, right? Let's keep on. Holy crap, this is a longer one. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And then approximately 2A. Oh, I think that means like Second Amendment. A law repugnant to the Constitution is void. An act of Congress repugnant to the Constitution cannot become a law. The Constitution supersedes all other laws, and the individual's rights shall be liberally enforced in favor of him, the clearly intended and expressly designated beneficiary. That's Mabry versus Madison 5 U.S. something 1803. An unconstitutional law is null and void and is no law. An offense created by is not a crime. An offense created by it is not a crime. A conviction under it is not merely erroneous, but it is illegal and void and cannot be used in legal cause of imprisonment. Ex parte something 1879. In American constitutional law, a statute is void for vagueness and unenforceable if it is too vague for the average citizen to understand, or if a term cannot be strictly defined and is not defined anywhere in such law, thus violating the vagueness doctrine. There are several reasons a statute may be considered vague. In general, a statute may be called void for vagueness reasons when an average citizen cannot generally determine what persons are regulated, what conduct is prohibited, or what punishment may be imposed. For example, criminal laws which do not state explicitly and definitively what conduct is punishable are void for vagueness. A statute which is also void for vagueness if a legislative delegation of authority to judges and or administrators is so extensive that it would lead to arbitrarily prosecutions related to, what the hell are you making me read this for, guy? Vagueness doctrine. Yeah, he just made me read a bunch of laws. Sure. So he just quoted laws. I think that'll work. I mean, it gets your point across, but make a meme or something. Holy crap, made me read a bunch of laws. That's the worst one. I'm just calling that one the worst one. It's an extremely unfortunate that the BATFE is seemingly intent to punish the many for the actions of so few. Not only is this un-American, it's immoral. As a former law enforcement officer and member of an East Coast BATFE task force, I can attest to the fact that there are more than enough real bad guys out there breaking laws to keep the Bureau busy. without creating busy work by regulatory manipulation to entrap law-abiding citizens. Also, as a resident of Virginia, a state which is becoming increasingly hostile towards the Second Amendment and Article 13 of its own Constitution, it alarms me to think that I may be shut off from certain firearms merely because of an accessory, while other Americans will not. Given the current political and socioeconomic environment, the BATFE should not provide ways for people's constitutionally protected rights to be trampled via regulatory fiat. I feel like if Guns and or Budget Guns and Gear was going to write one, that's the kind of shit he would write, except he's not a cop, so I don't think he wrote that. Let's see. Did I have to read this? All right, this is a long one. It doesn't, there's no law against it. I think it tells you can put 5,000 letters in here. No, I think you can put more than that. I think it's 5,000. So I guess I signed on to read these, but man, I don't like reading. Proposed rule change ATF 2020 R-10 is misleading. The proposed objective factor is not objective. It is entirely subjective. There are no objective criteria presented. It's a subjective list of characteristics to test again. This proposed rule change is capricious and presents an arbitrary guideline characteristic of some of the worst excesses of the BATFE. If I may rebuke my comments in brackets as, oh, what the hell does that even mean? Some parts edited out for character count. What? I don't even know. Come on, man. Come on. I don't know what this is all. I'm not reading that one. I don't have to. Sue me. I ain't reading that one. It's insane. Why are you doing this to us? Braces have been used for the better part of the decade. At this current juncture, such a policy change will only bring division. Braced rifles are hardly used in crime because they aren't as concealable as a handgun. You should be going in the opposite direction and removing SBRs from the NFA. The gun community at large will respond to this with non-compliance. You can't arrest us all. Oh, man. Anybody who's pessimistic, they're doing it by themselves. Like they're intending to be, they want to be pessimistic. There's no reason to be pessimistic. Please don't go through this direction. There are countless citizens that are disabled, and this brace makes it easier to properly use firearms. This ruling will not stop or prevent any crime. Criminals do not obey the law in the first place. I encourage the ATF to not infringe on our rights and dismiss this direction. I love it, but guess what? We're allowed to walk up ramps, and that means we're allowed to shoot braces too. Today, the ATF wishes to regulate a pistol brace. Tomorrow, the ATF will wish to regulate another aspect of my life. I believe in America as a republic, and I believe in the U.S. Constitution as law of the land. How do non-elected officials have the right to usurp the power of the legislature and make laws regarding the legality of a Second Amendment rights guaranteed to American citizens by our forefathers? This extrajudicial overreach by a government agency is about more than a piece of plastic attached to a rifle caliber pistol. This is the hallmark of an ongoing and concerted effort to criminalize guns and gun owners exercising their constitutional rights. I adamantly oppose any new restrictive gun rulings by the ATF, which I fear has become a partisan, politically motivated bureau being used in a wholly unlawful and punitive way to further curtail my fundamental rights as a citizen. It's a sad commentary on the state of this nation when I hesitate to opine on a pending government rule because of the fear of possible documenting and retaliation from a government entity I consider diametrically opposed to my understanding of a constitutional republic ruled by voting citizens. To be clear, this proposal to legislate the finer points of what makes a rifle caliber pistol an SBR is an unnecessary and partisan attack on law-abiding American citizens and the entire gun industry by an agency that should not even exist. I find the whole concept of defining a pistol brace on an AR platform as an SBR as ridiculous as licensing requirements imposed on the possession of any SBR. Oh my goodness. Bloomberg couldn't pay to have this kind of stuff done, right? Oh, I guess that was the last one. There's like something like 5,000 something more. 4,000, 48,300 and whatever. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. All right. I got an hour. I guess I'll do some more. Should we do some more? Let's go look at some comments. That was amazing. I had no idea. And those, did I even pick a bad one? Who's been in here? It took me an hour. Does anybody have any idea how many I did there? Oh crap, you got a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not screen sharing, I guess, the comments, but all kinds of stuff's been going on. I'm not gonna read all of them. It looks like there's a super chat out there. Thanks, Ghost. We'll take it. That's dinner. And I only paid about $5 worth of food a day now, so it's like 2 days worth of food. I'll take that. Thank you. All right, well, there's Walt out there, Build the Well Armed, Clover Tax out there. He's being 2A today. Should we do some more then? Makes you think there has to be way more waiting to be published than the 48,000? Heck yeah. Well, you know there are, right? So yeah, I don't know if am I on lag or something? Was my mic on the whole time? Oh, it's buffering. All right, so I guess I'll do a couple more. So I just go into this place, which is federalregister.gov. Is my mic still working? And then, yeah, read them all. I only got an hour until the show starts. So we'll jump over. Oh, I don't have to open any. Or what did I do before? I went in and I zoomed way out. So let's go back to here. And then the problem is I just closed a bunch. So I'm going to go to the last. I don't think that matters. It doesn't matter at all. It didn't do anything. So I don't know what I'll do. I will. Oh, I know what I was going to do. I will go down to here, switch pages to 4, and I'll just go to page 14, and we'll just grab, hopefully we won't, I mean, we might catch some that we already hit. Try to remember, I imagine I'll remember if I read them or not. And this might be a better way to, because that sampling was fairly random. This will be all in order, so sequential. And this will give us, I don't know if that makes a difference, but at least it'll be a sequential selection. And Walt's out there, or somebody, Smeggy, the nerds can tell you why a sequential selection is different than a random selection. Or unless I'm wrong, I think they're different. I don't remember how many I did before. I'll just keep looking on a couple. That was amazing, though. I really, really thought it was going to be, oh, you know what, though? They probably filter out all the crap. There probably is a whole bunch of like, I don't like you, and you're a big jerk. And then they just filter that shit out, right? All right. So, back in. Right. I strongly oppose the proposed alteration and classification of stabilizing braces. Not only is the change arbitrary, but also goes against previous approvals from the BATF. The debate about this issue is already encroaching on 2A rights and appears to have the goal of functionality restricting firearms ownership while not outlawing them directly. This is not a right the BATF has within its mandate and should not be allowed to dictate. I believe that there are more than 3 million braces out since they were first made, and now the ATF wants to change them from piece of plastic to regulated item. It's too much overreach and a waste of resources and time when you can go after criminals, not law-abiding citizens. You're going to make regular citizens criminals and also many handicapped. Thank you for your time. I suspect some of these are translation issues, right? So if you've got an ability to help out and translate, help people, in any kind of way to get it out there, This is making that part of it a little obvious. I do not support the reclassification of firearm braces. I have enjoyed using mine for a few years now and do not see why making it easier for me to shoot a large pistol accurately should be registered with you to own when I have had it for years already. This is just overreach in my opinion. Nothing will change but your list of Americans who love their firearms. God bless our freedoms, this country, and your decision. Thank you. Wow, that's interesting. I like that. There's a medium long one. Sir, ma'am, I strongly oppose any reclassification of firearms with an attached stabilizing brace. As a disabled veteran with service-connected injuries to both hands, I lawfully utilize pistol stabilizing braces on a regular basis. The braces act as a safety device that assists me greatly by ensuring that all projectiles safely impact their intended target. The proposed reclassification by the ATF is not in the interest of public safety, but is instead a thinly veiled attempt to further restrict our Second Amendment rights. Having fought for this right, I find it difficult to believe that my government is now attempting to take this right from me. I urge you to instead enforce current rules, laws, and legislation. The ATF has provided no technical specifics pursuant to this proposal, instead choosing to use intentionally ambiguous language in order to arbitrarily target lawful firearms owners. As such, this proposal is both dangerous and overreaching as it allows the ATF, in effect, to create a law. The ATF is not authorized to create laws, especially in response to political agendas. I am curious as to why the ATF would submit such a proposal with only 15 calendar day allotted for public comment during the Christmas holidays. Why was this done by the ATF? Instead of working to oppose lawful firearms owners, perhaps the ATF should instead promote lawful firearms ownership. You work for us. I have contacted my legislatures to oppose this very dangerous proposal. He signed it. Awesome. This one is similar, but not the same. Dear sirs, Miss, given the NFA's registration, approval, and fee requirements, firearms included in NFA's classifications are difficult to sell. This market limitation greatly reduces their market value. Therefore, this ruling would create an unlawful taking of significant dollar value from millions of law-abiding citizens that purchase their personal firearms in good faith by retroactively classifying their pistols as Class 3 NFA weapons that have greatly reduced market values. Also, this ruling's numerous assumptions that operating a pistol single-hand practice is completely inaccurate. For decades, civilian, military, law enforcement, and other organizations' handgun training has been based on two-hand pistol operations. Pistol training, including stance, arm positions, two-hand grip, two-hand thumb, and finger positions are fundamental to safe pistol operations. This rule's presumption that stabilizing braces only apply to single-hand pistol operations is absurd. This rule's type and caliber factors ignore the existence of very powerful pistol calibers. Also, there is a wide variety of calibers available that operate in both long guns and pistols. So using a weapon's caliber as an objective factor is not a valid consideration. This rule's weight, length, and length of pull factors are also inappropriate, given the obvious diversity of individuals' strength and size. Please reconsider this unlawful and irresponsible rule. Amazing. I love it. There's like 6 different things in this one that are amazing. Hopefully everybody's taking notes, right? That's like some kind of piece of paper open or whatever, and you scribble in some bullet points to make your videos to encourage others to get empowered by using this as an exercise. You go to the range, you don't expect to come home with a deer. You go to the range, come home with a little bit more understanding of how your rifle works and what windage is all about, and maybe some different sun and weather conditions or whatever. And then whenever you do hunt, you've got more experience under your belt. So anybody that doesn't see the amazing potential, the opportunity we have here, they never really trained. I believe the ATF is abusing its power given them by Congress and the many firearms acts. What other government agency can, on a whim, reverse course on a subject and effectively rewrite legislation passed by Congress? This has gone on for too long. Definitions have been entered into various Firearms Act. It is not up to the ATF to interpret these definitions as they see fit. There is a legislative process in order to amend these acts if they feel the need. By interpreting definitions, the ATF is circumventing the checks and balances placed upon it as part of the executive branch. That's an important one. They're our employees, and they need to know that we understand that. Gross overreaching of power and blatantly unconstitutional is the worst one I've seen today, except for that guy who made me read 4 laws or whatever. It's sexist. It could have easily been a chick that made me read 4 laws, so I'm not trying to be sexist. I have several issues with this proposal. The DOJ offer an amnesty of retroactive tax avoidance for NFA SBR registration of affected stabilizing brace firearms would not be legal or an option for anyone in the following states which currently have state laws prohibiting ownership of NFA items. And the second, the 10 points of determination are left vague and subjective. For example, what may be too heavy to shoot accurately one-handed for one person may work perfectly well and feel light for a stronger person. If weight and length is an issue, there should be thresholds set in the rule, i.e. no longer than or weighing over. In regards to calibers, they should be documented as to what is acceptable and what is not. This document seems to restrict the rights of certain groups of Americans unfairly, as well as not provide enough guidance to be useful. Right. I believe I speak on behalf of every single person. Wait, I'm trying to say this. I believe I speak on behalf of every single braced pistol owner when I say this is, I have to move this over. When I say this is completely unnecessary overreach that will impact millions of law-abiding gun owners. Please reconsider the new criteria for classifying pistols and stop the unnecessary overreach in rule changes to firearms that have caused no issues when used by law-abiding citizens. Hold on. I feel like we either can't spell as a nation, and I certainly can't, or our robots are stupid, like our robots need to get better. I do not feel pistol braces should be regulated in any way. If a firearm is to be, wait, that should be 2 words, guys. If a firearm is to be classified as a rifle or pistol, it should be done by barrel length alone. I also do not understand the need to regulate these items as they only make the guns less likely to be concealed. Regulating pistol braces affects me personally as I have severe arthritis in both hands, and these devices would help me keep control of my weapon. And isn't that what we all want? I'm going to go this way because it's easier for me to close them on this side. A pistol with a stabilizing brace is a firearm. The Second Amendment clearly states that our right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The ATF has absolutely no authority to regulate pistol braces or any other firearms accessories. Any such regulation, no matter how minor, would constitute infringement and would be a blatant violation of the Constitution. Medium long one again. Good morning. After reading the classification letter, I'm concerned for various reasons. Firstly, the circumstances where a stabilizing brace could reclassify a pistol into a short barrel rifle are vague, at best. From my interpretation, it classifies that majority of pistols with stabilizing braces as SBRs and leaves very little exceptions. My second concern is that the vague descriptions in the reclassification of majority of the braced pistols is intentional in order to force millions of law-abiding citizens into a registry that would later be used for confiscation or mandatory buyback, completely disregarding the Second Amendment. I've been a God-fearing, law-abiding citizen all my life. I tried my very best to research products for the sake of always remaining within the constraints of the law. I am also an avid firearms enthusiast. Despite recent ailments which have made it difficult to grasp certain pistols with one hand, I was grateful to have come across an article regarding pistol stabilizing braces and have always hoped to purchase a pistol equipped with one in order to continue enjoying my preferred pastime. Now that I possess one, I'm being told that I may have inadvertently purchased something that could have been considered an SBR, that could be considered an SBR, Should I fail to register it, I would be deemed in violation of federal law. With that said, I respectfully request this letter be retracted and you allow us, law-abiding citizens, to continue using pistol braces while the BATFE works in conjunction with pistol brace manufacturers to ensure that products being produced and sold to the public are compliant with the NFA and GCA. Thank you for your time and consideration. Your top priority at this time is to defend our country against the threat of communism. Law enforcement has done absolutely nothing to stop riots, business closures, and election fraud, all of which are carried out by communists. There is no reason to go after unfinished guns. Most people don't know how to finish the build. For these reasons, I object to this proposed rule. All right, we got a new winner for missing. Hey, you know, when you go shoot, every once in a while, there's one that doesn't even hit inside the rings, right? Like, that's the one we're all saying, like somebody, so the wind came by. Then when the wind took that guy. Folks, this correspondence will serve to request that ATF will not reclassify weapons. This correspondence will serve to request that the ATF not reclassify weapons with stabilizing braces. I am a retired federal investigator, and throughout my 34 plus years, 23 years in Miami, I never encountered a weapon with a stabilizing brace on any weapon during an investigation I conducted. With the acknowledgement that weapons with stabilizing braces are prolific in the USA, they are used daily by law-abiding citizens who use the weapons with WSBs for everything from hunting to home defense and competition. A reclassification of WSB to an NFA, SBR, so a National Firearms Act short barrel rifle, would severely limit a citizen's ability to move freely throughout the country. The requirements to file a form allowing for interstate travel is cumbersome and problematic with an agency that is already overloaded with e-filings. The world as we know it has changed dramatically, and the US citizens are more cognizant of their safety than ever. The ability to everyday carry a WSB, pistol brace, allows for ease of utilization that longer barrel weapons do not. Additionally, as it cannot be denied, there is an unprecedented distrust of the government, which is further exacerbated by the incoming president-elect. To implement such a draconian decision during this time in our country's history will undoubtedly result in countless U.S. citizens becoming potential felons who would fail to comply purely out of distrust. I know there are counter arguments to everything I have conveyed, but to negatively impact so many Americans who just want to go about their lives is an injustice that will have negative reverberations for years to come. Leave things as they are, and this guy signs it. Man, it's pretty cool. The proposed change to the regulations regarding pistol stabilizing braces is unacceptable on 4 points. First, the change is so severe that it rightly should be a purview of Congress and not a regulatory agency. Second, the items in question have been legal for 8 years, and this change amounts to an ex post facto prohibition. Third, the objective criteria are quite frankly not, and they, Third, the objective criteria are quite frankly not, and they amount to arbitrary rulemaking and fly in the face of the ADA. Fourth, an administrative agency can only suspend collection of a tax, not forgive its obligation, as the reclassification scheme promises. As such, the ATF's promise to waive the $200 tax is void at best and fraudulent or capricious at worst. I'm going to be happy reading this one. More on each of these points. First, these accessories are not regulated by NFA 34 or GCA 68. To alter the current paradigm, it's tantamount to legislation, which is properly the role of the legislature and not the executive, of which ATF is a part. Indeed, the reclassification of bump stocks also fails this test. Additionally, the entire executive is under presidential order not to make new rules and policies at this time. Secondly, as the items have had certain legal classification for a period of 8 years and no grandfathering provision is offered, this rule is ex post facto action, which is explicitly forbidden by the federal constitution. Hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of Americans are threatened with becoming felons overnight through this sort of retroactive law rulemaking. We will address later the waiving of cost of the tax stamp, but it is worth noting that this is not an acceptable option for avoiding the ex post facto clause. Indeed, even reconfiguring or destroying the device does the device not provide adequate protection, as the argument could be made that the possessor is still in constructive possession of an SBR SBS, or is taking actions to avoid prosecution, which implies some sort of crime, or is taking actions to avoid prosecution, which implies some sort of crime. That's a good one. Just hard to read. On the objective nature of these proposed criteria, ATF's position that the totality of circumstances may cause two identically designed and configured firearms to land in two different legal categories is not demonstrably arbitrary. Let us take, for instance, the length of pull criterion. Should a person who is 6'4" in height and a person who is 5'2" use the same braced firearms, what could be considered to be a length conducive to shoulder firing on one would aptly be set for the forearm of the other. Now we have a felonious SBR for the shorter person and a stabilized pistol for the tall one. I'm tall, so I'm okay with that. Will ATF ask for the forearm length of every applicant? The short people shouldn't have guns, I'll just say. The variance in human form, dimension, and physical ability is too great for this to be an objective criterion. In addition, the prohibition or overregulation of these devices is contrary to the intent of the Americans with Disabilities Act. It is not the purview of the ATF to determine what types of devices are reasonable accommodations for people with disabilities or in what manner that accommodation is made. This is especially important for something which touches on a constitutional right. Lastly, it is established fact in the U.S. that the executive can only suspend collection of a tax as the current president's plan for payroll deductions has shown. The ATF's promise to waive the $200 tax stamp on NFA items is illegal, and the deal they are offering is therefore void. One might even argue that it is fraudulent, as they do not have the authority to uphold their end of the argument. In closing, these proposed changes are unacceptable, and the status quo should be maintained. These proposals harm American citizens, American businesses, and chip away at the perceived legitimacy and fairness of the federal government at a tense time where that is the last thing anyone should be doing. It is my recommendation that these proposed changes be dismissed and not applied. Love it. Somebody gooder at reading should do this. Whom it is concerned, I submit this form as a formalization of my concern for the classification schema being proposed by the BATF. Their classification scheme poses a potential threat to millions of law-abiding citizens by allowing vague terminology to remain in their classification scheme. These vague terms will in turn potentially cause millions of citizens to become open to federal prosecution in an unjust and unconstitutional manner. I call upon all elected officials to oppose this flagrant disregard for our citizens' rights and to rein in the unconstitutional actions of the BATF. Human emotions and flippant actions of an unelected body have no place in a civilized society based on well-established constitution. Wrote that one. I got these all in a row, so they obviously filtered out everything that's garbage. They are only keeping the good stuff. So that means that this is like 48,000 of these. Come on, man. Pistol braces are in common use everywhere, or else it wouldn't be an issue. Doesn't common use mean that they can't be regulated in this manner? Besides, the whole SBR thing is kind of bogus anyway. Yes, there are actually lawful reasons to own a short barrel rifle. They don't belong on the NFA list in the first place, and trying to expand what constitutes an SBR to include any braced pistol is just another ATF overreach. Like I say, some of these are darts, some of them are daggers, they're all taking meat. This new regulation is simply registration without cause. The government has no right to keep registration of firearms that are not part of the NFA. This regulation, let me stop for a second. There has been nothing by Bloomberg's side, right? Has any of the moms put is there anything been in here like, hey, yeah, let's just keep going with this horrible tyranny, right? This has all been anti. every single one of these, right? There's only been two kind of lame ones. They've all been pro, and it's there. I can't imagine they're. I mean, I guess I could imagine, but I don't think that they are filtering them. All right, I'll start from the beginning on this one again. The new regulation is simply regulation without cause. The government has no right to keep registration of firearms that are not part of the NFA. This regulation does not make the case clear, as it presents more questions than it answers. What calibers are acceptable? What weights? What lengths of pull? In short, this just reaffirms that the ATF have become a meme. We all know it when we'll see it. That's not how the government works. In order to infringe upon our constitutional rights, the government is required to in order to infringe upon our constitutional rights, the government is required to show just cause. When just cause is presented, the government is required to infringe in the minimal fashion possible. This regulation leaves the barn door wide open to all of the livestock to escape. This is completely unacceptable. The ATF became the laughingstock of the gun world when they ruled that a piece of string was a machine gun. Regulation like this reinforces that earned reputation. The ATF is absurd in its authority for it has abused its authority for too long. It is time to return to the clear meaning of the Constitution as outlined by the Founding Fathers. The Federalist Papers and other writings make it clear that the individual has the right to be armed equal to the military. In short, the ATF should be a convenience store, not a government agency. I don't know. I'm going to put that one towards the bottom. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't great. Let's see. Somebody else put all this stuff in the beginning again. Only about, 10 of them have had this. You don't need to put the attention stuff right in the meat of it, it looks like. All that stuff can be put in the fields in front of the main form. All right, the factors identified by the ATF for its possible use and classification include type, caliber, weight, and length, how the gun is marketed, length of pull, sights and scopes, peripherals, accessories mounted, and rear surface area of the brace, among others. While the factors listed are arbitrary and open-ended, the truly onerous part of the proposal is that no definitions of the factors are provided. The BATF must provide clear, objective definitions of the above-mentioned requirements to use when classifying pistols and arm braces. The proposed regulation would further confuse the ability of citizens to follow the law due to the very subjective nature of these factors. Concrete, subjective, and clearly written guidelines must be set forth to end the confusion over this issue of pistols and arm braces. I mean, it's your right to put that one in there. I don't want clearer, I want no more NFA. So I don't, that one's okay, but I'm putting it towards the bottom, even though I'm not commenting on these. First, my apologies for this comment, but this does seem just a little silly. All right, let me try that again. First, my apologies for this comment, but this does seem just a little silly. I've always believed that the purpose of NFA classifications was to prevent the use of these weapons in crime. I really struggle to imagine what criminal would use this device. The device is perfect for those with disabilities or age-related issues. Being in the later group, I can attest that aging, especially in the presence of osteoarthritic changes, does nothing for one's ability to grasp and control. These devices are a great boon to people with disabilities, and for a great many of whom a $200 tax would be prohibitive. Adoption of such a regulation would prove discriminatory. Please do not take this step. You know, that's like even the old guys are running up and clobbering the ATF with a cane. I love it, actually with a braced cane, because screw the ATF, right? Once again, oh, hold on a second. I have to, something real quick here. To people with disabilities and for once again, the ATF is infringing upon illegal gun owners. You make a ruling on an accessory, millions of people purchase produced legally. Then you change your mind. On what empirical data have you changed your mind? Has there been a crime wave fueled by pistol braces? Instead of wasting time and money on an accessory, why don't you guys go after actual criminals or work with local authorities on why certain areas are such hotbeds of crime and try to help them solve that instead of going after items and types of guns that are used in very small percentage of crimes. Oh, another longer one. I'm only going to do these long ones if they're good. I strongly oppose the revisions and clarifications outlined in docket number ATF 2020 R10. While I appreciate an effort to bring clarity surrounding the classification of stabilizing braces, I find that the clarifications in this document do nothing but muddy the waters and expand the reach of infringing on law-abiding citizens. The time for clarification should have been when the first issued approval letters for the wide use of stabilizing braces were created by the ATF in 2012. Since then, millions of law-abiding citizens have purchased these items while complying with current regulations outlined by the ATF. To add clarifications that reverse provisions, regulations in their entirety 8 years later, to add clarifications that reverse previous regulations in their entirety 8 years later is unacceptable and unfair. I do not currently own any braced pistols, but one day I would like to very much like to. With my current income, I simply cannot afford it right now, but may be able to in the near future. These revisions being suggested by the ATF will surely put braced pistols outside my reach, as I simply cannot afford the extra money for a tax stamp in the foreseeable future. Millions of law-abiding citizens have gotten to exercise their Second Amendment rights by owning these braced pistols. With these revisions, I would not be able to exercise my own rights, just like millions of Americans have already done. These revisions would disproportionately affect the lowest income brackets going forward by making exercising their rights markedly and unnecessarily more difficult. There is also the issue of dealing with millions of braced pistols already in existence. Forcing law-abiding citizens to register or forfeit items they purchased in good faith in accordance to long-standing ATF documentation is again unacceptable. These citizens have owned this property and spent between hundreds, possibly thousands, sorry, I gotta wipe my eyes, of dollars to procure it. Registration has always been a very lengthy process, and I'm not convinced the ATF would do anything to change this, despite their suggestions of adding more staff to streamline the process. Even if this is done, that is more money needlessly taken from the taxpayer's pocket to process what we did not ask for, did not need, and do not want. If a law-abiding citizen chooses not to register their braced pistol, the only other option is to dispose, forfeit it, which is again unacceptable. The ATF requiring you to dispose or forfeit products you purchase lawfully and have owned lawfully for years is a massive violation of the Fourth Amendment. The ATF should strongly consider the degradation of rights and financial burden they are forcing on millions of law-abiding Americans before making these revisions. That one's good. That was worth reading a long one. Ooh, just a little gumdrop, just a palate cleanser. Please drop the political crusade against American citizens that brought 80% lowers in pistol braces. And pistol braces that ATF declared legal. Yeah, that was kind of that was one of them, like you get a little appetizer, but it's not a good one. Like, you're like, so they were getting me this one. I can't believe the ATF would give the go-ahead on braces, then pull the rug out from under millions of gun owners. Y'all can't just make up rules and change them as you go. It's completely wrong and unconstitutional. There, that was a little better taste and morsel. Another short one. This pending determination is really ambiguous and frankly unnecessary. There has been no significant amount of danger or crime with misuse of these devices and would create more issues than it might aim to solve. Highly unneeded and blatant abuse of regulatory power. I highly oppose any and all steps towards a change in determination in this manner. I am done. That is amazing. What time is it? Well, we only went half an hour there, but I'm sick of saying stuff. So guess what? Anybody who thinks that we can't do stuff, anybody who's still pessimistic, keep walking. There's 40-something thousand of these people out there, 48,000 of these people. Just miss me with that shit. Man, that was awesome. There was some commentary in there, so I lied. That was an hour and a half of reading comments, completely rogue, just reading them off the Federal Register. That's just other gun owners, maybe not even gun owners, just people that give a shit. Obviously, there's people in there that didn't speak English probably, or can't, write or something, because they're getting some help. It was awesome because their ideas were still expressed well, right? So what I didn't see there is well, I'm not going to say that, so we're not going to comment. Thanks everybody for showing up. Thanks to the 48,000 something that commented so far. Well, actually the 45,000 that commented and CloverTac. So right on. Thanks everybody for showing up.